Here's another list in the continuing list of lists. We're looking at what to do before you go to college, while you're in college, and even after college. This one is specifically dealing with before college, 8 things to do in high school. And it reads at some point in your sophomore year, there are some things to do that are essential so that you have a much more effective and lasting college experience. Not doing these things can only add to the wasted time and effort you may experience. This, I believe, and I haven't done exhaustive research, but of my 25 plus years of experience of teaching in higher education, speaking to many in higher education, presidents, deans, many in academia. This is probably the main cause for students, I should say, dropping out. Any given year, students go off to college, and in any given year, 50% of those students who go off to college will not graduate, okay? In reasonable time, within 4, 5, 6 years. They may go back to college at some time in the future, but generally speaking, they're done, they drop out, and they take considerable time off if, permanently take time off and don't go back. So there's some things, and I've never seen a list like this. Many of the lists that I've created so far, I've seen similar topics covered by other academics out there in videos and books and whatnot. I've even had my students read some of those list books that you can use or read hopefully, before you go to college to prepare yourself. Anyways, so let's get into this number one. Before you do anything, you need to take the Briggs-Myers typology test, also known as the Jung typology test. This test usually confirms what you know about yourself, applying specific labels that help you clearly see those traits, as well as tell you things about yourself that you never knew or thought about, okay? So it's about a 6, and I've talked about this before. There's other videos that I've done that go over this in much more detail, okay? And I'll list those in the description below the video. So that test, I took the test. I took it at a much later date. I took it when I was about 32, and I was just beginning to formulate the ideas for my coaching business. And I was impressed. To be honest, a lot of things don't impress me, and of course, I'm not the center of all impressing. It's not like you impress me and the world moves forward a tick or two again, and great concerted effort. But sorry, that got me going. Don't get me laughing. Okay, so anyways, I took that test. I was being coached on setting up my business, and I was suggested to take the Briggs-Myers typology test. I don't know if I took that in high school or knew about it in high school, but anyways, there it is. I took the test. It's 60 questions. It's not multiple choice or essay or anything like that. What it is, it's kind of on a sliding scale. A question may be asked of you when you go when you go to relax. Do you stay home and read a book? Do you go out and hang out with friends? What do you do? And then you have a selection. Yes, from yes to no, somewhat, don't know, not applicable, so it's on a sliding scale. And then by the time you get to the end, there's about 60 questions. By the time you get to the end, you get 4 letters, and those 4 letters pretty much hone in on who you are. Are you mostly introverted, extroverted? Are you mostly interested in being consistent from day in and day out? Do you like a routine? Do you not like a routine? Whatever. So it's really gets to look at who you are. Okay. Your personality type is what it is. And then also at the end of the test, and I'll put that in the description as well, the one that I use. At the end of the test, um, it will give you some suggestions as to where you might be happy or where your basic personality type, skills, talents, gifts, innate natural tendencies and abilities and so forth, right? All those things that you come to this planet with. It tells you where you probably are most likely to apply those things. Okay. It was very helpful to me. I took the test and then I was, a good portion of it, maybe 70%. And I think this is generally true for most people who take the test. 70% of the test, I was like, well, yeah, I kind of knew that. But there was a good percentage where I just had no clue. And it really resolved some issues in my life. Like, for instance, I am basically a person who likes to solve the problems of the world, but have a tough time dealing with those close to me. So I have a tough time dealing with solving the problems for my family, my kids, and my wife, but I'll sit down kind of like what I'm doing here, right? I have a natural tendency to want to fix the bigger picture stuff, not the smaller picture stuff, right? The macro, not the micro. And it's not that you can't do these things, but this is where your natural tendencies lie. And then you can make adjustments as you move forward, right? And some of those tendencies are very strong. They'll almost never be replaced or overcome. And then some of the other tendencies are kind of weak, middle ground, and then, very weak. So they can't be replaced. Anyways, that's that. If you want to know more about the Jung typology test, I'll put a link in the description. You can check that out. Number 2, the Briggs-Myers test results will give you career suggestions and options. Talked about that. And there's actually another test that you can take that will get into more of the specifics as to what career or options you have after taking the Briggs-Myers typology test. And people not taking that test and just going off and doing something, many people already know. If you're, 8 years old and all of a sudden you start taking apart radios and putting them back together, taking apart cars and putting them back together, well, you probably have a propensity to be a mechanic. If you are 10 years old and you go out, you grab books from your room and you go out and you climb a tree and you go read books every day, that was me. You probably have a propensity to be an egghead, a nerd, a reader, a researcher, someone who uses language, is interested in using language, uses language well, and so forth and so on, right? So I think we know, but we really are not guided in that direction. I don't see a lot of it because there's a lot of students that have come into my classes over the years and they just don't know. Clueless is where they live, right? Not their fault, probably more so the teacher's fault, the school's fault, and other areas, they don't know. They're just kind of winging it. When you're younger like that, you don't know. You just kind of bounce around and go from here to there as you're directed, right? Thinking that these older folk, these parents, these teachers, they've got all the answers. They know what to do. No, you'll find out that's not true, right? This is a great opportunity for you to brainstorm with a family member, counselor, friend, whomever, as to what direction you want to go in. Don't limit yourself to one. Choose 2 or 3 and then do some research into each. So this is not a clean, cut and dry type of process. It can be very sloppy. It can be kind of all over the place when you're trying to resolve or figure out what it is that you want to do for your career. And again, some people are there's probably 3 categories. One group, people are pretty sure they know what they want to do. Second group is they're kind of in the middle. I got some ideas. And then the third group is I have no idea. I'm clueless, And people will even work, they'll pick something and might work 3, 4, 5 years or maybe more, and then realize, well, that's not it. This is, after a while, you realize that's definitely not it. I thought my mom or dad's suggestion or my friends or whomever, I thought that was going to do it for me, but no, that's not who I am. Number three, that research should consist of asking people, excuse me, try it again. Number three, that research should consist of asking people in the field of interest what their experience has been like, the good, the bad, and the ugly. See what an average day consists of and whether or not it sounds like something you'd like to spend years of your life doing. You can ask family, friends, neighbors, teachers, whomever. Again, you have access online. There's a lot of research that you can do online. Looking into these, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a doctor or a lawyer. What is it exactly that these people do day in and day out? I have a friend who got into law, and then he told me the last thing he wanted to do was paperwork. And then he said, guess what I do? Mostly paperwork. So, he's still there. He's still a lawyer. I got into the field of computer programming early on. It took me a while to get into it. I was probably 24, 25. Then I worked in that field, the computer field, for about 7 years. But then I realized, nah, this ain't it. And that's why I went back to school. And then I was in my mid-30s and my move into teaching in higher education, right? Number four, this process should not be done quickly. Since we're talking about a good 30 to 40 years of your life, your career, basically, and a main portion of that life, this needs to be worked with energy and vigor. Research the field online, talk to people, take notes, brainstorm, converse, and reflect. Work at least 3 possible majors and let it gestate. It's kind of like writing an essay. When you first come up with a thesis, that's good. Is it going to be the thesis for your paper? Probably not. Tentative. And as you work through the paper, as you write, as you grease the wheel, and as you move forward, and as you get things moving in a positive direction, hopefully, that's when you start to begin to see things more clearly, right? And you start to see more clearly what it is that your thesis should be in writing a paper. Many a writer says, I don't know what I'm thinking till I write. And I don't know what that writing is really about until I write multiple times, multiple drafts, going 1, 2, 3, 4. What I used to do, one of the things that I used to do to brainstorm or to reflect, you really got you got to do a lot of reflecting on this. This is really up to you. You want to do this, you want to do it right, or wrong, basically. Wrong is not putting enough effort into it. What kind of effort, what direction you go, how you do it, that's a different story. There's no one way there, okay? But you should put a lot of effort into these steps, to figure out where it is you want to be, so that you don't end up being of the 50% we're going to drop out. And then, you go to college for a semester or 2 or 3, and then you drop out, and all of a sudden you've spent that time, you've acquired more debt, and without additional knowledge skills. You don't have any additional knowledge skills or workforce experience. All you have is some courses that you took that you're not interested in, and debt and additional debt. Okay. So that's important. Number 6, now's the time to make a choice. At this point, you're in your junior or senior year, roughly. When do you start this process? Sophomore year, I would say. The sooner the better. Maybe towards the middle or end of your sophomore year, so that you've got a little bit of school under your belt. And this academic thing in the not primary elementary school, that's a lot of introductory stuff, a lot of the elemental stuff that you have to learn, colors and numbers and shapes and patterns and letters and things like that, right? But by the time you get to junior high, definitely high school, you're starting to encroach upon those disciplines, science, math, um, history, and so forth, that are more in line with probably what you'll be looking at or looking to take uh, in college or higher education. Okay. Um, you've got some school seasoning under your belt, and you spent many months brainstorming and contemplating your major. It's time to choose in order to move ahead and gain the final few steps. And the thing is, you're probably, as you go through these steps, and definitely hopefully by the time you get to the end, when you've made your choice, you're much more on the ball, or much more, it's safe to say, because you've done the work, much more, I don't want to say locked in, but closer to being locked in to a major that will satisfy you, something that you'll be interested in doing, and that will at least pay the bills while you're doing something that's not totally off base. Me working as a computer programmer, I was always good with logic. As a matter of fact, or the, left side of the brain, the logic and then the creative. I was always good with both sides, really, but the left for sure. And even my father said, you're pretty good with math. I was thinking of majoring in mathematics in college at one point, but I realized that was limiting for what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be, who I was. So I didn't go that route. And this is how you have to understand these things, right? I did a lot of work, so I really know and knew what I should be doing. And then when I went off to college to get my degree in English, creative writing, I still knew, I still knew, I should say, I still kept working towards hopefully knowing what it was that I ultimately wanted to do with this degree, right? Sure, teach in higher education, but there was something else, that I knew. You have these inklings, these sixth senses. You have a sixth sense. You have an intuition, a gut feeling, right? That's another video I got to do on gut feelings. You really have to go with them, right? Because who spends more time with you than you? Nobody. So you should know yourself better than anybody. And then become a guru of you. You basically, after a fashion, should be able to guide yourself most of the time, And as the years go by, less and less reaching out. You're more reaching in, and not in an ignorant or arrogant way, but in a way that will help you, right? Now that you've chosen a major, you have to think about a college. What do you prefer? A college that emphasizes your major or well-rounded education? Which colleges have departments that excel in the major you're looking to move into? Don't worry, you're almost done, right? So, and do some research on that. What's the difference between the various colleges out there? There's hundreds of colleges. And if you have a major, if you want to be a writer, then you probably want to go to, I think UC Irvine has a good writing program. Michigan State has a good writing program, right? If you want to be a teacher, then you could probably go to Cornell. You can probably go to Stanford. They have good programs for teachers. And so, or if you want to become not an accountant, but an economist, you probably want to go to what's the academic school? MIT is one, I think. And then there's the Chicago University, I think, is another one. I can't think of the other one. But those colleges, there are some colleges that are better do a better job at certain majors than other majors. So you have to look at that. Then you have to look at, well, do I want to just fully focus on my major, or do I want a well-rounded education? Some colleges, their curriculums uh, emphasize the major, and some will emphasize more of electives or well-rounded education. So there's a lot of variations out there, right? A lot of variance, okay? But that should be a part of your research as well. Um, and again, you could just, say I'm going off to college, sign up to the local 4-year, 2-year, and just go, start taking classes. But that's kind of a lot of people do that and they drop out. And what does it produce? Confusion, wasted time, and acquisition of more debt, right? Finally, number 8, now you can begin to put together those applications to the various colleges of your choice. Don't be afraid to apply to those that you feel are even out of your league. You want to shoot high, low, and everything in between. You never know what you're going to get in return, right? You don't know, and you kind of have to go by instinct. You kind of have to play some of it by feel. And since you've done your a lot of thinking and researching and note taking and talking and reflecting and brainstorming and in and out and up and down and left and right and bottom and top, you've worked the process. You've really, really worked the process, right? A lot of that working the process means that you're building up your instincts, right? You know now more about yourself and also about the environment that you're moving into, higher education, than you knew when you first started, right? And not knowing about that stuff and just, I'm going off to college. I'm going to get a degree. In what? Why? Why? Well, for what? I don't know. I'm just going to go to college. Take some courses and experiment, see what's out there. That's an expensive way to do it, right? And there's a way there's a way right here that you can whittle it down so that when you do go forward and start choosing majors and moving forward, uh, you know, you probably have a much better chance of hitting the mark than not, than hitting the mark or missing the mark by not doing it, right? So that's about it for now. Hope this helped out. And if you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, any suggestions, anything that comes up whatsoever, please put it in the comments. Also, like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.